There we go.
Yay!
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, the moment you've been waiting for. This is Michael, KJ5AJU, and our resident expert on SDR is going to teach. Let's say,
Yeah.
He's got to present.
the topics related to SDR radios, what you can do with SDR dongle. Yeah, real quick. Go ahead.
Yes.
We are recording? Okay. Okay. All right, looking at a room full like this, I feel like Bugs Bunny and those old cartoons. Is this all for me? All right, so SDR radio, software-defined radio. We talk about what it is, different types of SDRs, why you would need or use an SDR, programs and applications, a couple of use cases, and then we'll open it up for discussion. First of all, who all in the room is one of these? Oh, just a handful. Okay. These are RTL SDRs. You can get them off of Amazon. They come in a kit. Get the SDR receiver. It's a receiver, not a transceiver. You get a tripod. You get a set of antennas, wires, etc. And these are only about 45 bucks as the kit on Amazon. And these will do up to 10 meters. So it gives you everything on the hand bands up and including 10 meters. The V4 works better on 10 than the V3 does. The V3 has to do some software upcoding to make it work and be stable. The V4 supports 10 solid without a problem. I stole this definition. It's the best one I found off of Red Pitya, which also makes their own SDR. Software-defined radio is a radio communication system where components that have been traditionally implemented in hardware, mixers, filters, amplifiers, modulators, demodulators, detectors, etc., are instead implemented by means of software on either a personal computer or an embedded system in the radio. They come in multiple form factors and packages. Who has an ICOM 705 or 7300? You have an SDR radio.
Mm-hmm.
Yaesu FT710, 991A are examples of the Yaesus. Elecraft, the K3 and K4 are all SDRs. The Shagu 6100 and the G90, also an SDR radio. If you have a radio that has a waterfall built into the display, it's more than likely SDR based. The USB dongles,
We just talked
the
about.
3 and the 4s that I just showed. Noelec makes a dongle as well. Others, the SDR Play, the Sun SDR transceiver, really nice SDR radio. I'd love to have it one day. It is a full transceiver, but it starts at $1,200. They can go from being really inexpensive to really pricey, just like having a full-size transceiver. The Radio Battery SDR Pi Hat, they just came out with a new version of that. It is a transceiver. It'll run on your Raspberry Pi. And then you have things like the Kraken SDR, which is actually 5 SDRs built into a singular package. Number one reason I hear from everybody that gets into using SDRs is it's a very inexpensive way to get into trunk scanning. If you like listening to trunk systems, police, fire, EMS, etc., you can do it with an SDR. I have confirmed that it does work with the Northeast County Interconnect. So Hurst, Bedford, Euless, Richland Hills, Fort Worth, Grapevine, Colleyville. Hurst is going to it. Who am I missing?
You pretty good. You got a good cover. That's enough.
Basically everybody but Hurst.
Everybody but Hurst in this area is on the interconnect for right now. Yeah, Hurst is coming. Supposedly, what was the last? Where's Doug?
Call it 90 days.
Don already leave?
Yeah.
I guess so.
Call it 90
Yeah,
days.
next 90 days or so, I think
Yeah.
is when they're supposed to come up on it. Other things you can do with it, you can use it as a diagnostic tool. You can use it for weather satellite decoding. If you like looking at NOAA satellite images and whatnot, you can do decoding with an SDR. ADS-B, automatic dependent surveillance broadcast, has to do with flight tracking. That was the first reason I got into using SDRs, was to be able to do ADS-B. Radio direction finding with something like the Kraken. You can use it as a pan adapter to take an old analog radio and actually add the ability to have a waterfall on it. basic old radio station listening. If you get bored one day and want to tune your favorite FM station, you can do it on one of these. Options of what you can do with them are pretty much endless. And every day they're coming out with more and more packages you can use with them. Basically, if they can receive, if it's on a radio frequency that's within the range of one of the receivers, you can do something. Different programs and applications. You have HurstARC, which is one of my favorites, HDSDR. SDR Plus is a one that's cross-platform, will actually run on Linux, Mac, etc. HurstARC and HDSDR are Windows-based only. For some of the plugins, you have to use a virtual audio cable to pipe the audio that's coming out of the SDR into the secondary application to do the decoding. More and more of the software that's coming out for doing these things are eliminating having to have the need for the virtual audio cable. A lot of them can now interface directly with the SDRs themselves. But initially on, pretty much everything was a plugin that was dependent on using a virtual audio cable. Screen image from HurstARC. Listening into the local 102.9 FM radio station. You got your waterfall at the bottom, showing your signals. You can see corresponding channels or stations on either side of it. HurstARC and all of these SDR software applications, you can choose how wide you want the spectrum on the waterfall. You can go very narrow, or you can go very wide. So how many frequencies you want to do. There's a screen capture of HDSDR, same channel. All I did was switch applications. Different kind of waterfall, your tuner and everything is down located over here. And then SDR++. So basically all the software packages give you an option to be able to tune. You know, what it is you're wanting to listen to. You'll have your waterfall, you can adjust just your bandwidth as to what you want to listen to. And all of them are smart enough to know where you are. If you're in the FM broadcast band, it'll say you're in FM broadcast. If you're looking at frequencies that are within airband, they'll display airband. You know, if you're in the FM, the HF frequencies, it'll tell you which band you're in, 10, 20, 40, wherever you are.
Mike, I assume all these, if you click on the waterfall area, it'll switch.
Yes, if you have real time, and we'll play around with some live here in a little bit. Real time, if you click on the waterfall, you can actually switch to where that signal is. So if you're working HF and you're looking at the entire 20-meter band, trying to find somewhere to work, you can double click on the signal that's in the waterfall to find out what's there. And then if that's something you want to work, you can then turn your radio into it.
Between softwares, is there much difference in feature set, or is it more just GUI?
It's more just GUI layout. They all allow you to use plugins if you want to use plugins. Some of them have plugin support built in directly. SDR Plus and HurstARC have gotten to having plugin support built in directly. All three of them, you can pipe out to a virtual audio cable, then launch your secondary application to do your decoding there, whatever it is you want it to code. Ooh, it's not advancing. All right. You also have on the web, and I use these a lot, they're actually web-based SDRs. You don't have to have a dongle or anything yourself. There are actually SDRs that are publicly available out on the internet for a lot of your HF bands, your 2-meter, your 70 centimeter. So if you want to test your reception or how the band is doing at a certain time of the day, say you're trying to test 10 meters and see if anybody can actually hear you, you can go to one of the web SDRs. There are a couple that are based in the US. They're based all over the country, and be able to see if you can hear yourself there. I use it a lot when I'm doing diagnosing just to see what the bands are doing. Your three common ones are OpenWebRx, WebSDR, and Kiwi SDR. They're all listed there. If you go to receiverbook.de, you can actually choose what band you want to listen to and be able to dial in from all three. So instead of having to go to each individual site to find out the SDRs, you can do it all off of receiver book. As I said, the number one reason I hear people start using SDRs is being able to do trunking. There's a great application out there called SDR Trunk. If you have a radio reference account, you can sign in your radio reference account into SDR Trunk and be able to have it build the channels for you. If you don't have a paid account, you can still get on and see what the channels are, what the talk groups are, etc. But you have to manually build them out in the software. When I first got into doing trunking decoding, it was back in the 2005, 2006. I saw this great thing on the web, put out by Patriot Waves. It's 2 RTL SDRs built internally into one package. At the time, the only decoding software for P25 and trunking at that time, you actually had to have 2 SDRs to make it work. Because the way the application was written, you had to have one SDR dedicated strictly to the control channel. And then the second SDR to the talk groups to be able to listen in on. SDR trunk, which is the most recent one I found for doing trunking, you can do it with one SDR. You're not required to isolate out one specifically for your control and one specifically for your listening. So as time has gone on, the different packages for doing these different things have improved. And there's probably something out there that's even better than SDR trunk I haven't even found yet. SDR is a diagnostic tool. This came in real handy last year. Back in August, we had an issue with descents on our 2-meter repeater. At that time, that's when I went ahead and purchased the Kraken SDR and started doing radio direction finding on the input frequency of the repeater, just trying to figure out where the noise was coming from or where our possible potential interference was coming from. Found out and confirmed by several ham operators, K5SKR, myself, Billy here in the back, 85KNR, that the clear channel billboard at 820 South and Pipeline Glenview was causing interference on the repeater's output frequency at a minimum. And after investigating it further, using a RTL SDR on this laptop in the back, parked right under the billboard, it was found the spurs were all over the band, not just our input and output frequencies. We worked with Clear Channel. Melissa at KM5R found a contact at Clear Channel to find that we did have an issue and got it rectified. This right here was parked under the billboard, and I was tuned higher up in the band outside of our input and output frequencies. And you can see the spurs all over the entire band. So we had their technicians turn the billboard off. Flat. Completely flat. So they did some tuning remotely. I'm not exactly sure what they did. It's an LED billboard. I have found issues in the 2-meter frequency. There are other LED billboards in this area that are throwing off spurs. The Hurst Library is one of them. Fortunately, that one's low enough to the ground. It's not causing too much problem with radio signals, but it lights up the Kraken every time I fire it up.
No, the one at the public library is the same.
Mhm.
They all do.
They all do. So I don't know if it's in the LED panels itself, if it's in the power regulation on them. Do you have any clue or thought on that? Not really. But LED billboards throw off all kinds of spurs in the 2-meter range. Now, when dealing with the guy at Clear Channel, he was stunned that we were having a problem as low as 2 meters. He said he runs into problems all the times in the cellular bands. And they get reports all the time from the cellular carriers about their billboards causing spurs. So it just goes to show that it's the greatest technology in the world, but it does cause issues other places.
Unfortunately, that contact is no longer.
He's no longer there. And I don't know if you've noticed or not, it's starting to get loud again. So I'm trying to track down another contact because Melissa doesn't have anybody left up there to work with. To see if we could do something about that. At the same time, and I didn't put the slide in here, when I was sourcing this down, the high voltage lines down 820 South and I can't think of the cross street. There's a Taco Bell and McDonald's down at that cross street.
Meadowbrook.
Meadowbrook. Those high voltage lines right up there. At the same time, we were having problems with the billboard. Those were lighting up the Kraken as well. And I don't know what changed, but in a matter of a couple of days, that spur went away. So. All of our equipment's not supposed to cause interference, but it's supposed to be allowed to accept interference, and that's where it definitely affects us. Satellite SDR decoding, or SDR satellite decoding. Multiple plugins out there for satellite decoding, including weather satellites. This one I just came across recently. It's one I'd recommend if you want to look into doing the satellites. It's SatDump. You can get it from satdump.org. The nice thing about this package is it has a scheduler built into it. You give it your grid square, and the scheduler will automatically record anytime there's a satellite passed, regardless of what satellite it is, overhead. So you can program it for the NOAA satellites. A couple of the Russian satellites do publicly available weather, etc. And you can set it up, let it run overnight, get up in the morning and have those really nice high-res images already done, decoded for you. The fun thing about SDRs with all these different packages is if you're into building things, you'll find yourself building multiple types of antennas to go with them for whatever it is you're decoding. So one of my favorite things to do, as I said, is ADS-B decoding and feeding. There are a couple of commercial systems out there. There's an open source project out there. FlightAware is where I got started doing my ADS-B decoding. FlightAware provides a dongle as well as a filter. Little did I know at the time that I was just buying one of these in a different package.
Well, what did that run you for?
Surprisingly, same price range.
Nice.
Same price range. The thing I like about going this route is if there's any issues with you're having with the hardware, if it's a FlightAware hardware, they're happy to talk to you. So you can do it with a regular RTL SDR. All it is a package that you run that feeds into the service that listens on the frequency.
Are you feeding into FlightAware?
At the moment, I'm not. I took my shack where I had it set up on the outdoor shack down about 4 months ago. I haven't put it back up yet. The nice thing about FlightAware is they have a Pi image that you can load up on your Pi, plug in the equipment and go. If you're feeding them data, you get access to a commercial account for free. They keep it active for 365 days since the last time they received a signal from them.
Nice.
So you get a full year from the last time you feed them telemetry before they turn off your commercial account. The nice thing about their accounts, and I'll pull it up here in a little bit, is you can put in a flight, doesn't matter what carrier it is, and get real-time headwind data, where it is, estimated time of arrival, all of that.
I'll look into the brother of mine in South Africa.
Yeah. Yeah. Radar Box does the same kind of thing. They have a Pi image, but they cut you off 7 days after the last time they get telemetry from you.
No mercy.
No mercy. I was feeding both FlightAware and Radar Box with a single dongle, running the FlightAware image and just loading up the communicator for Radar Box. I was feeding them both off of one Pi, one image, one set of equipment. And really the only difference is where you point the target database. You're either feeding it to this address for FlightAware or that address for Radar Box.
Can you do them both at the same time?
No, we could do them both at the same time.
Oh, wow.
I had them both running at the same time. I had them running on a cron 2 minutes apart, so I wasn't totally dogging it out, but the same equipment. I mean, it's listening to the exact same frequencies. It's just the uploader will load up FlightAware, wait 2 minutes, upload to Radar Box, wait 2 minutes, upload to FlightAware. And then there's also, click to join audio on my screen.
If you're in California in the fire area, you can see a lot of those helicopters and planes.
They found the second.
Yeah, I don't know why. See if I can swing it to the side.
Covering over.
No, my mouse was right.
Oh, no, the one on the,
Going back and then just drag start.
Yeah.
Going to your second.
Oh, I all screwed it up now.
Take a short intermission.
No, oh, it's your screen.
And then they-
Okay, perfect.
There you go.
ADSB Exchange, open source. If you don't want to use one of the commercial services, you can feed into an open source database. Regular RTL SDR, you just need to have something that can listen to the frequency. And you can feed into them. ADSB Exchange has, I think it's 12 different packages you can use to feed into them. Some Windows-based, some Linux-based, some cross-platform. A lot of the cross-platform stuff dealing with SDR is written on Java now. So if you can get a Java interpreter for your operating system, you can run the plugin for it.
You know what they're doing in that filter?
I believe it's a low pass. I'm not 100% sure what they're doing there.
Sweep that sometime.
Yeah. Oh, the other thing, I didn't put it on here. The other thing you can do with Radar Box is Radar Box provides a dongle. Yes. Radar Box also provides a dongle for airband. And you can feed real-time airband into them for things you're hearing overhead.
That's sweet.
And regardless if you're I think they take either airband or ADSB to keep your account alive. Of course, if you're feeding both. I did this more for listening just to the flights that were overhead. All right, then on to SDRs for radio direction finding. Got the Kraken, the first one I've seen come to market so far. As I said, it's 5 SDRs, all built into one package with a calling fan. It interfaces with a Raspberry Pi. You can tell this in my Kraken Go box. Battery Pi. And the Kraken itself. Open source software that runs on the Pi. As of now, it only has an Android app. They do not have an iPhone app. So I've got an old junk Android I took from my mom for being able to use it. The app integrates with Google Maps. So the frequency that you're trying to log in on, it'll actually show you on the phone a heat map from where the noise is coming from, where the station you're trying to tune into is coming from. And it gives you step-by-step driving directions, turn left, turn right here, etc., as it hones in onto where the source of the RF you're listening for is coming from. They have an antenna package. You can get their antennas or aftermarket antennas. Arrow Antenna just came out with a series of antennas for the Kraken. This is their commercial set that they provide. We've got 5 different antennas. Each one feeds into a separate slot on the SDR. They are extendable antennas. And you space the antennas out on your vehicle, or wherever it is that you're setting this up on, at a certain spacing based upon the frequency you're listening to. And you set the antenna heights to a certain height based upon the frequency you're trying to listen to.
So this is good for Fox Sound.
It's, I've been kicked out of Fox Hunts. I've had 3 invites and told, once they found out I had a Kraken, told, no, don't show up. So. Take the fun out of it.
It's still. good
It'll
practice.
totally take the fun out of a Fox Hunt.
It's still good practice.
It'll do all the work for you.
How'd you find this in like 3 minutes?
Exactly.
I'm that good.
I'm not just that good.
The porcupine car is a giveaway.
Oh, yes, the porcupine car is the giveaway. Where was it? I go back to.
Follow him.
Yeah. Follow, you can't really see it in that picture.
No, you can't
No,
see
you
the
can't.
antennas.
That's actually the porcupine on top of my car, but it doesn't. The antennas are so thin, they don't show up well in a photo, no matter how I try to take it. One of the users of the Kraken SDR came up with this great template. This is how I do my antennas. It's a base you put in the center of your car. It's magnet. Slap it down. The arms have a notch on them. So you put it into the notch, put your antenna based upon the frequency where it's supposed to be. Move it to the next notch. By the time you're done, all of your antennas are spaced out perfectly for what it is you're trying to dial in.
What happens if you put it, the antenna's horizontal?
Don't know, I haven't tried it. I'll be honest.
You ended up driving around in circles.
Probably. Probably.
I was thinking you could.
Because the way it works is it listens to all 5 SDRs. It knows what the antenna spacing is supposed to be based upon the frequency you're listening into. and listens for signal strength off of those individual antennas, if they're spaced properly. And can tell it's more to the left, more to the right, you know, more behind you, and as you're doing that, driving around and tightening in the heat map, it keeps adjusting to signal strengths until you get locked in on where it's supposed to be.
Something like that
Mhm.
years ago.
Thing I found very recently, something I'm looking at doing with an old analog I have, is that you could use it, as I said earlier on, as a pan adapter. And when used as a pan adapter, it allows you to see all of the stations and traffic via waterfall across a whole band or multiple bands. So where I see this come up most is CW operators. You know, if they're listening to 20 or 40 and they're focused in right here and have a small bandwidth view on the built-in waterfall on their radio, where you can only see so far on either side, you could actually open up the entire 20-meter band on the SDR and see where there's potential stations to be able to go work. Doesn't have to just be CW. If you're doing phone, which I do a lot of, you can see where there's at least activity in the band that you could then tune into on your radio and see whether or not it's something you want to work. You can also use, and I found this the other day, depending on the transceiver and the SDR brand, you can actually use something like the DXE RT2 that DX Engineering puts out that will automatically, you could share an antenna. And when you key up the transceiver, it'll automatically kill the feed of the SDR so you don't blow the SDR. And SDR console is the software they recommend to use with it. Depending on the radio you have and the SDR, you can actually have SDR console tune both simultaneously. So you're not having to manually tune your radio and adjust it in the software for the SDR. It'll actually tune them both. And there are all kinds of pan adapter mods out there on the internet for different types of radios. I'm using a loaned ICOM 725 analog right now, and I found a mod for it to be able to feed it into an SDR.
Have you played with CW Schemer?
No, I have not.
Decodes multiple stations at one time in CW.
That's cool.
It's banned from contest.
Somebody's always got to take the fun out of it. All right, to the open discussion part, there's my contact information. RTL SDR is a great reference to go to if you're looking at anything SDR. They have all kinds of applications and different things you can do with them. I've just covered a handful of different things you can do with it. There are all kinds of projects out there for them. So any questions, comments?
Gonna cost me a fortune.
I hear that a lot. I hear that a lot.
I said, can you get a cheap hobby?
Yeah, exactly.
No.
I do have this tuned in back here to the interconnect. I don't know if you have any.
That's an oxymoron. Go ahead. That's an oxymoron.
There we go.
Yeah.
Michael, you've got it back there. You can just share it.
Good job, Michael.
I think they make. I will sell.
Like you listen to Bedford, it's like 10, 15 seconds between transmission. Euless is like.
And then you listen to Hurst.
You go see the man about a dog they got. We have to restart our radio system.
Yeah, I can't get it to share from back there. There's too much feedback.
Have you ever heard of that?
Referring to
If you want to get into scanning, like I said, SDR trunk's a great one to get into. I actually have a playbook. SDR trunk lets you do playbooks for different channel configurations and whatnot. I already have one fleshed out for the whole interconnect, so if anybody wants a copy of that playbook, just reach out to me and I can get it to you. So you got anything, Steve? He's gone.
Well,
I guess that would be a no.
The wrong.
Houston, we have a problem. He probably did. He'll be back in a second, I'm sure.
He said, tell me what this sounds like.
Exactly. Anybody else possibly have a Kraken? Just curious. Nobody?
Not yet.
Not yet? Huh?
It's, well, I don't know if it's the best one, but it's, I don't know, every time I drive up here, if I get on 121,
Mhm.
as soon as I get to Beach Street, I lose, my phone's connected to my truck via
Mhm.
Wi-Fi.
Uh-huh.
It always disconnects from Beach Street up to Riverside Extra,
Really?
every single time, every single time.
I guess I know what I'm doing tomorrow afternoon.
Exit Street, it'll be,
Yeah. I guess I will run out there soon and see what it's doing.
Somebody's got a dish, shoot them signal, high power signal.
Something. That's crazy.
That's it, hot here.
Well, when I purchased my Kraken last fall, I knew I found two others in the area, other hams that had them. So just kind of putting together a list of operators that have them in case we actually have to go out and do.
What's the,
Hmm?
I did one, but it's hard to put in.
Yeah, yeah, especially soft top.
No, it's.
The hard top,
Yeah.
hard top fiberglass.
Fiberglass, yeah. It'd be-
This fella right here, you know.
I have a solution to that. Amazon sells these 4-inch square steel plates that you can use, V things and attach it to the top.
There's an idea.
Yeah,
I don't know how good the grounding plane would be though, being so chopped up, if it would work well enough or not.
I think it will work. I'll let you know.
Has anybody come up with a cheaper way for taking maybe the SDR dongles and put it into a hub where software will rotate between the dongles?
I don't
It
know.
has
for
to be
sure.
live.
I know that this was initially built off of.
Oh, here
Of
where you're
multiples
going.
of these.
You would have to be so pointing to those device drivers. and
Yeah, you-
Whether you can do multiple within software.
Every hand can afford it?
I'm sure it could be done.
I was gonna ask if you had how big your USB might be on a machine.
So the
10
Kraken,
boards.
the Kraken is one USB-C out.
Very good.
So you're not having to have 5 USB ports because it's all in one package and one interface to the pod.
Yeah.
So that is one of the things that makes it nice.
Yeah.
And you do hire out, of course.
Of course I hire out. Of course I hire out. Any clubs are having issues with noise on their repeaters or whatnot, I definitely 100 for free.
Phenomenal.
No,
I'm at 30.
do they? Okay.
It's internet.
Welcome.
Uh-huh.
Which, is that the one that's out of,
It's, I'm gonna say Eula Mall, 2 meter, right?
2 meters just off of 30, this one, that's just south of 30. West of downtown.
I heard one of their repeaters was down like towards Crowley, is there?
Well, so they got three, there's the 440 to 3020 on the water tower at Benbrook.
Okay.
2 meters, just some, another tower just south of.
Which thing, I don't know, when I think Countdown, my head, it's downtown is where all their, all the repeaters are.
Just past 30 on 35.
There's no English left on.
The only time we have problems in Amazon is when you put field day antennas out.
Mhm.
Steve's the new owner.
There he is. So you got anything to add this time without hanging up on us?
Yeah, too many buttons to think about here. Just want to say great job. Really enjoyed it. I got a few. I'll wait for later to give you a call on them.
Okay.
Wish I was there.
Yeah, but I bet you're glad being
Good
home
turnout.
after the week you've had.
Oh, yeah.
Looks like you had the little buddy behind him.
Yep. She's been quiet for a change.
Was anybody working off of a
now.
full radio transceiver compared to say, let's laptop set up with a dongle? Can share a little light on differences of
The pipe
where,
area?
where is it worth it? Like an Elecraft or
Well, the flex fully SDR, obviously that's a nice price tag. All those SDRs are good units, depending on who you talk to. It's really how comfortable they are with the user interface the vendors manufacture more than a difference between the sensitivity of the radios.
And the reason I asked, in some scenarios, I really just want a box.
Yeah.
I don't want to be thinking through my computer and dealing with driver updates and
Right,
whatever
yeah,
else
right.
configurations. That, yeah, maybe I'd want to learn that, but I don't, most times if I want to get into it, I don't want to be messing with that.
Your wallet is full.
Icon,
Thank you.
Icon.
What are you doing out there? Well, obviously the 7300 is,
Like, if you want just a receiver, I think they've got an SDR receiver that
SDR play,
Looks
once
like
again,
that.
that's.
Even if it's packaged into a normal
Yeah,
transceiver as well. Certainly if you want
Right.
more bang, if I want to pay that much money.
yeah, well,
Do more with it
the
than it
pi
does.
berry is the closest thing I think you're gonna find. I think it's, Mike, did you say pi berry is 5 watts?
Yeah, the Piberry, I believe is 5 watts.
So, you know, the Pi Berry, I would go with a 10 or 12 inch touchscreen display on the Raspberry Pi, and you've got yourself you got a POTA station.
854095
Okay.
What's the best antenna for the, for the multi-band, one of the old cone antennas?
Disc cones have been known to work great if you're running an SDR. For, for being able to get everything across the fans. Most of what I find that I'm doing with them is dedicating them to something specific. So I'll cut an antenna for whatever it is I'm working.
Does it, I want?
Piberry.
I'm on.
And I, man.
See, and
What kind of shit is that? Piberry has come up. For some reason, Holocaust is not coming up either, so it needs to go to Sun SDR's website.
Share your screen again.
I'm trying to get something up to share and then I'll. Not the Piberry, it's the radio.
Courier for the Liberty Field is eligible for 2017, all have eligible ID card that expired November of this year. They're showing to have agreements out
So
of.
the question everybody asks is, when Hurst cuts over, are they gonna be encrypted? And right now, the answer is no. So you'll still be able to listen to it. Obviously, if they go encrypted,
Trunk won't
we
do is
won't.
decode encrypted.
Well, technically, they're already on the entrance system. They're just going towards paying for maintenance so that it's fully supported by the.
yeah, they bought Don said they bought a whole bunch of new radios, they've been programmed, they're in a closet.
Yeah.
They have a cutover date at some point that they're gonna switch over.
Last I heard they were still getting to the antenna
yeah,
differences between multi-mode, single mode, fiber, single brand.
they're, okay, you're aware they're doing that out of their tower.
They're not quite ready to let go of
I,
the self-hosted system.
My background is I spent 42 years at the city of Bedford, IT and part of the radio. So I'm well aware of what they're doing.
Okay.
Only 42.
Yeah, only 42
Don't you make tenure after 3?
Well, do give us a critique.
Okay, so here's a short list of different things that RTL SDR actually has on our website. Listening to EMS, listening to aircraft, decoding aircraft, scanning, a lot of it has to do with scanning. POXAC, you can actually decode POXAC communications. I will say it works.
Toxic.
I hear a First Blood project. That's how we'll activate racing.
Yeah, POXAC. Well, you will be surprised at how many hospitals still use POXAG pages
Oh, yeah.
for their doctors.
Oh, they've gone. to-
POXAG decoding does work, and I'll leave it at that. Let's see here. Weather balloon data, satellite data. It's listening in on a VHF. I mean, sometimes you could sit there if you don't have a radio at home, at least listen to the net, you can tune the frequency.
I like to watch analog broadcasts.
Radio astronomy. Listening to meteor scatter. That's on here that's interesting. A lot of it's RDS.
Lactic hydrogen line measurements.
Listening in on ISS when it passes.
Help, we need a ride home.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I've done
Going.
satellites. I've done satellites with the Yagi. The downside with trying to work a satellite with the Yagi or ISS is the signal's great, but holding it, because you're having to sit there always change. You can set up probably a decent discount and hear the whole pass. You wouldn't be able to transceive, but you'd at least be able to hear the pass. A lot of these software packages meant for satellites and whatnot have the ability built into them to use a rotator. So if you have a rotator on your mast, they can rotate the tower for you from the software to keep the track on the satellite. And some of them will not only do azimuth, but they'll also do elevation. If you have a dual rotator that will do azimuth and elevation, you can control both.
One of our silent keys that really enjoyed tracking them with just azimuth. So you don't have to get into the high-end dual axis rotors. You can do a pretty good job with just azimuth tracking.
Well, and there's quite a few DIY projects out there now using help me out here.
No red.
No, rotate them.
The old days, they used 2 rotators.
Right. God, I've got drawn a blank.
As Jack just said, it only gets better.
It only gets better. And I have way too many of those recently. You can use,
There's like the 8-beater.
yeah, you could do the 8-beater too. No, what do 3D printers use?
Oh, the CNC control, CNC control?
Not just the CNC control, but the actual motor, stepper motors.
Stepper
Thank you.
motors.
Drawing a
Right.
complete blank. There are actually DIY projects out there for using stepper motors to do azimuth and elevation rotators. There's a couple of open source projects out there. Depending on the weight of your antenna, it wouldn't
Yeah.
take much.
If it's well balanced,
If
yeah.
it's well balanced, it wouldn't take much.
A new dimension to antenna building. I have to make sure it's balanced. God.
Not only do you have to balance the driven element and the radial, you have to balance the weight as well. So, yes,
Well, while we're on this subject and you've got the website up, are there any DIY antenna builds or instruction sites you would recommend for monitoring again air traffic again?
Have a great day, Chris.
yeah.
Like it's because it sounds like you've tried a few, but I was just wondering if there was one that you're like, this is the one, like.
I can't think of the top of my head.
Okay.
And that's okay, Michael, maybe
When I do,
later
I will.
in Discord or
I'll be
something.
honest, with my ADSB stuff, I just been buying commercial antennas.
Oh,
These are
okay.
only $30-40.
Oh,
Depending
okay,
on what
okay.
you're wanting to do. This one's for 978, which is UAT, which is the lower end tracking for commercial vehicles or for planes. I find more things that are on UAT is going to be the helicopters and short distance type things versus something running a full ADSB transponder like a commercial flight or even a personal plane.
Okay.
So, but yeah, if you get deep into the woods with using an SDR for doing satellite and whatnot, you'll find yourself building all kinds of antennas.
Okay.
And if that's something you like to do, it's
Okay.
a fun avenue. But no, when it comes to the ADSB stuff, I just been buying commercial antennas.
And again, I know practically, again, going back to the billboard and the LED, spurious emissions. But I mean, practically, the right thing to do is to contact whoever is in charge of that billboard and
Correct.
try and get it resolved,
Correct.
but legally, it's not supposed to be doing that. I mean, they're, again, interfering in ham bands.
Right, right, and that's what surprised me when I got held, the guy at Clear Channel, he said, I'm surprised we're bothering you so low in the band. We normally
Ah,
have issues and our
okay.
billboards, when they're causing issues, they're up in the cellular bands.
Yeah.
He said, I'm usually hearing from AT&T and
Right.
Verizon,
yeah,
not from, somebody so low in the frequencies.
yeah.
And when we got the contact, he treated us just like we were one of the same cellular carriers. He's like, we have a problem. You've proven we have a problem. Let's address the problem.
Good, good. So yeah.
Yeah, they were proactive. We just had to show them.
Right. The curious thing on that, for me is based off of that graph, the spurious emissions were only 10 dB above the noise floor,
Mhm.
which out away from that sign is not as much of a issue.
No.
Typically.
No.
Depending on proximity and so forth. So.
Right,
I can see why they would say, yes, we're not, normally we don't see something in that lower band.
right.
Higher bands, that different gain difference could easily.
Could easily, right.
Trample over that, so.
Be enough to knock something off for sure.
But, yeah. Other than that, there's always the case of, I know there was that season, I was gonna point to Chris, that season where, somebody's radio was keyed up for a pretty extended amount of time, locking up the repeater. And that's, another example where that would come in use is try to locate that, or just get a check with the FCC and see if they're paying
Right,
for violators, locating violators.
right. That was the most noticeable one being what it is. I mean, everybody knows where that billboard is. And like I said, the Hurst Library, lower billboard. At the same time, I had one that was about 15 dB over. That was in that same neighborhood near the library, actually a block over, and it was a residence. That I did end up pushing up the chain.
Yeah.
So. It's it was weird because there was no obvious antennas. The only thing the guy had was a dish network dish on his. I can't say that it wasn't a legit dish network dish. But it was also causing spurs in the same frequency. It really surprised me how many things lit up when I fired up the Kraken on our two frequencies on the 2 meter, the input and the output.
LED grow lights maybe or something on that? Who knows?
Possibly,
Yeah,
they'd have to have a lot of power on it,
Yeah.
yeah.
a lot of power on it, but yeah, I mean, it's possible.
Yeah. There's no surprise to how much RF spurious emission you get off of LED panels working in production. That's the challenge with just about any production base and wireless mic
Right.
in those atmospheres.
They're great for a lot of reasons. And then you get to the
Cause more
spurs.
issues.
Yeah, and then you get to the spurs. So. So as you can hear in the back, that is the interconnect being received via an SDR. The problem running, as I said, SDR trunk, you can get away with one SDR for both your control as well as your talk groups. The problem with that is that if you are only using one SDR to do it, you listen to the control channel and one of the talk groups will come up, Hurst, Bedford, Euless, whatever. They'll be having a conversation. As soon as the control channel picks up another talk group activity, it'll flip. So if you want to lock in on one particular talk group at a time, you need to have two SDRs, one for the control and one for the actual audio channel. So that doesn't happen. I was listening to a police chase, God, several months back, real intense police chase, about 11 o'clock at night, Euless, getting in on this guy. Everything's getting great. You know, I'm sitting there by the radio, just really getting into it. Bedford calls for a well check and I completely lose the entire chase. So.
So how do the two dongles talk to each other as far as coordinating that?
It's all done in the software. The software you actually allocate in the software. This dongle, each dongle, although they all may be the same,
So is it, this one's on the control channel, this one's on the talk group?
Correct. This
Okay.
one's on the control channel, this one's on the talk group.
Oh, okay.
And you can, I've run 5 of these at a time on a PC, and they all show up as the same device and device manager. Those be labeled 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. So it's really easy to determine if you're using one for multiple things. You can actually,
I'm assuming
Be able
you're
to tell.
using a powered USB hub?
Mhm.
Okay.
yeah, I would not try to run these on a non-powered hub.
That'd be perfect.
No.
That'd be taxing to the PC.
And as we can see, my PC is apparently already taxed enough as it is today. So,
Okay,
no, I don't have anything else.
thank you, Mike.
All right.
I will, all right. Chris asked me to push this video up to him. I'll do that. Michael, if you'll be so kind, if you could share your slides with us.
Yes, I will.
We'll get those also, and everybody will have access.
Cool. Sounds good.
So that's going on, what, YouTube?